Hey, before we get today's episode going, I want to give a special shout out to the Who Arted podcast. Who Arted is a weekly art podcast that breaks down art history by looking at some artists and some of their most fantastic work, and having a fun little discussion with or without guests. I recently made another appearance on the podcast on an episode that premiered earlier this week, where we talked about a very obscure artist, or at least one you would consider an artist. We talked about Andrew Fuller, who is a outstanding baker and cake artist that I would consider, who won Netflix's Is It Cake, at least the first season. Me and host Kyle Woods had a fantastic conversation about the guy and some of the art that he's been able to push out there in cake form, obviously, and I think you guys are going to absolutely love the discussion we had. Check the link in the show notes and you'll be able to go to the episode and enjoy a fun little conversation. And for you guys personally, here's a little taste of what you should expect from Who Arted.
He started baking as a kid, learning it the traditional way, grandma teaching him and all of that stuff. And he said in an interview, he found that he's creating other forms of art. People look at it, they like it, they appreciate it, but they don't always buy it. But with food, it's this categorical shift. All of a sudden you make something edible and people are like, well, you got to eat and you might as well enjoy it. So that they'll justify the expense. You know what I mean?
I mean, I've seen obviously both ends of the spectrum when it comes to that kind of stuff. Cause I've talked to a bunch of artists or whatnot, and as incredible as some of the stuff out there, sometimes it's hard for them to sell stuff to people. It's hard for people to really buy it. But obviously when it comes to food more than anything else, especially if you've seen the best example of that would be edible arrangements more than anything else. If you think about an edible arrangement, it's technically a piece of art more than anything else, but people are going to buy it more than anything else because it's a nice, beautiful aesthetic that people can enjoy and have their bellies full of. Listen to the Who Arted podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And for more information, go to whoartedpodcast.com. Everyone, and welcome to the Postmodern Art Podcast, the podcast dedicated to giving artists who are wowing the world over the platform they deserve. I'm your host, Ragland, and a major thing that I do with this podcast is I try to take the time to listen to artists. That's part of the job for me more than anything else. Take the time to truly listen to them, get an idea of what they want to try to strive for more than anything else. I'm happy to say that with today's episode, I'm happy to know that I'm not the only person doing that. And with today's guests, they are taking what the artists want and trying their best to deliver. Today's guest is Jay Brown, the founder and CEO of InkBlot, a social media website dedicated and committed to artists and creators. With the recent, what's the word I want to look for? Dumpster fire, that is Twitter nowadays. I've been seeing several people try to come up with alternatives on how to eventually stray away from that. And InkBlot has been one of the more consistent ones trying to get their name out there more than anything else. So whenever I saw that and saw that they were dedicated to artists, dedicated to listening to artists and trying to help them out succeed, I knew I had to reach out and try to see if I can get them on the podcast. And today's conversation, I cannot stress enough, is a very fun and insightful one that I think you all are going to love. If you enjoy our guests today, make sure you support them with the links down below. And, of course, try out InkBlot today. We'll definitely discuss a lot more into the episode on why InkBlot is a cool, fun alternative that you guys should at least explore. But take it from me, it's worth at least exploring. So try InkBlot today. If you enjoy the podcast, make sure you like, share, subscribe, or follow whatever audio streaming platform you prefer. Leave 5 stars wherever you can. I see that stuff. I absolutely love it and cannot get enough. If you want to go a little bit further with that support and just, rock some incredible streetwear that, helps promote the podcast in one way or another, maybe you should consider going to our merch shop at pmap.creator-brain.com. We have some outstanding designs done by some wonderful artists and former guests of the podcast, and with the recent addition of the hats that you can totally rep right now, I think you'll be looking styling in whatever you get from that shop. In fact, Right now, if you use code I want a hat at checkout at the merch shop, you'll get an additional 20% off your order. So I would recommend, just doing it today, because that offer is not going to last forever. And hey, look, if all you're just trying to do is find a fun community to where you can talk about some of the guests of this podcast or try to grow with other artists as well, maybe you should consider joining the Discord server, the Artist Sanctuary. We've already developed a fun little community where we're sharing fun, incredible artworks, trying to get people connections or whatnot, sharing fun memes, and just having a good discussion, and I think you would be a wonderful addition to it today. But now, without further ado, please enjoy the Postmodern Art Podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing okay. It's a Sunday. It's pretty dreary outside, but just I'm looking forward to a D&D game tonight. So
there you go. There you go.
Yeah.
I have been wanting to get into like D&D badly. Like it's one of those like I need to find like a group to like just do it with, whether it be like through Discord or something like that. I was part of one when I was like back in college, but we only did like 2 or 3 sessions and then just nothing past that.
Yeah, that's pretty common. I started with friends, and then that kind of fell off. We did like maybe 6 or 8 sessions. And then I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna just go out, find my own group. And then I realized that there was like no DMs, like nobody wanted to be a DM. So I was just like, all right, well, I'll just be a DM, So I found my own group, and I've been doing it ever since for I think 1.5 years now. And it's been so much fun. And obviously I have friends that join me with other complete strangers and things like that, because, you can grab some from Reddit and things like that. I do completely online. I know some folks love it in person.
I mean, the only one I knew was the in-person one, but I obviously know like I'm in like several like different friend groups because of the connections I made like through the podcast or whatnot. And I know like there's a good chunk of them that like have like different sessions, different groups or whatnot. I know of a group that like on Twitch stream like Pokemon D&D or something along the lines of that.
What?
So, yeah.
Wow.
So like, yeah, I know it's out there. I just need to be like, hey, who wants to do it?
Yeah, no, and I'm sure you'll get some bites because everyone loves having more than one session.
Exactly. Plus, yeah, I do appreciate the fact that like the mentality you had with is like, well, no one else is gonna be the DM for this thing. Screw it, I'll just do it myself. Basically, like you can probably test this, but from what little I could research or whatnot, that's basically just been your mentality with just about everything you've done at this point.
It really is. I like to say I don't like to talk about it. I like to be about it.
There you go.
That's pretty much what has gotten me into trouble more times than not. As you can see, InkBlot has just been exactly that whole statement put into action.
I mean, at least someone's putting it into action. I mean, I think I said this to you whenever we were getting the thing set up, but like that was the mentality with this podcast. It's one of those, I wanted to see something like this out there. No one else is doing it. Well, screw it. I'll just do it. Let's go.
Right. Yeah, no, that's the best way to do it. And, it's like, it's same thing with the DMing and everything. Everyone wants to talk about it and want to, be a part of it, but they don't want to lead it. So, there's only a few people like me and you that, get out there and get it done.
Exactly. Which, by the way, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I really do appreciate it. I can only imagine, like, I don't know how your mind is or whatnot, but like, I've never had an interview kind of like this, like talking about like a media platform or whatnot. So, I mean, this is definitely a new direction for me, but also like it's a very interesting one because at the end of the day, I mean, you and I can say we're artists. We're just trying to promote something out there. We're trying to promote other people, and I feel like we'll find a good conversation at the end of the day when it comes to this. So
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm happy to be here for sure.
Absolutely. And sorry your other members of your staff couldn't be here, but you know what? Like I said, we just need at least one person that represents the company. We got this.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. They were just I mentioned it, and then they were like, "Oh, well, I want to come," and I'm like, "Okay, well, you can," but I always knew it was just gonna be me. I was just like, "Yeah, you guys, I got you. I'm glad for the enthusiasm, but I know that I'm probably the one that's gonna be there."
They're here in spirit.
Yes.
I can only imagine because I'm gonna go ahead and just ask this question. Like, it has to be just like I'm not gonna say a hassle, but it has to be an interesting experience running a social media website. Because it's one thing to like join one, but it's a completely other experience to it's a completely different experience to actually run one. Like, this got to be like a new kind of level of hectic for you, isn't it?
It is. It's my first rodeo, so I'm definitely learning every day. It's as I tell my team, I'm like, there's going to be patterns of human behavior. Like we'll start to be able to predict things, because it's just, running a social media website is just kind of having that glass room where we're in here, they can't see us, and we can see everything that they're doing, in terms of like interaction wise and everything, and no one can really see everyone else. So like in what they're doing, they're only focused on what they're doing and who they're interacting with. So we kind of see a lot of different interactions and everything, and it's very wild coming from, someone that knew nothing about tech to see that. And then obviously not even just tech, but social media tech. And it's been insane, that's for sure. It's been really crazy.
Well, I admire your dedication so far when it comes to this and helping this thing grow more than anything else. And we'll definitely divulge a lot more into that when it comes to the actual discussion. Okay, Jay, before we really get going, I must ask the icebreaker question of the podcast, if I may. Let's say you get to go to a deserted island on your own accords. It is just you, alone with your thoughts. You get to kick back, relax, breathe. Get to enjoy yourself a little bit. With accommodations, you're not stranded. You're just it's all to yourself. That's all it is. However, to help make sure you don't go completely, batshit crazy on this island, you can bring one piece of media or one piece of art with you to help with whatever vibe you want to try to go with. If given this opportunity, what would that one piece be?
Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay, one piece of media. Okay, so can the media be a game?
Oh, absolutely. Whatever you consider media or art, that is all within the realm.
Okay, I would have said a piece of art, but the artist, I can't remember the name. I think it was like Ludwig or something. But if it can be a game, then I'd go with The Long Dark, a survival game. It's a survival game in the Canadian wilderness. Something happened where it was like apocalyptic, like electrical, like thing that took out all the electricity in the world.
Okay.
And I think I clocked like at least 100+ hours in that game. So.
I mean, that just the bare minimum of the presence that you already told me alone, like, it sounds like an interesting, like, mentality more than anything else. Like, I imagine, like, it's all shrouded in darkness and you're trying to, like, find a way to, like, light it back up, essentially.
Pretty much. I mean, there's a story, but there's a sandbox, and then so you're just kind of like trying to survive against you and nature and the cold, which obviously cold. The weather is nature, but like nature of the animals, but like the cold is totally different in its own thing. So that's why I mentioned them separately. And it's a really fun game, single player, but it's really fun.
There you go. And you said it was an independent game as well? Or is it indie?
Yes, so a small studio in called Hitherland, and they are in Canada, called The Long Dark. Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna say this, like, especially like nowadays, like what independent game developers are able to accomplish more than anything else. Like, it blows my mind hearing that concept alone. Like, I'm not gonna say I'm not surprised that hasn't been done by a AAA production, but also like I'm just amazed that, like, again, an independent studio is able to create such a unique concept like that. That's the beauty of, the independent art world, I guess, more than anything else.
Yeah. I really wish indie games was like pushed forward rather than all the AAA. I mean, AAA is cool and all. Like, I buy my own AAA games, but like those games really got something special, and supporting those studios is 100% what I think a lot of gamers need to kind of set some time and attention towards.
Fair enough, but nevertheless, The Long Dark, that is your answer. You're locking that in.
Yes, I'm locking that in. Yes.
All right then if that's the case, I cannot think of a better way to start the Postmodern Art Podcast. Welcome, everyone. I am your host, Nathan Ragland. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, or follow whatever audio streaming platform you prefer. You can support the podcast on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/PMAP. And follow us on Twitter and Instagram and InkBlot at PostmodArtPod for future updates and guest announcements, including today's guest. He is the founder of InkBlot, a social media website dedicated and committed to artists and creators with a growing base. Welcome to the podcast, Jay Brown.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you so much for taking time to be here and discuss this. How are you doing on this wonderful day?
I'm doing okay. I'm really excited for this podcast. I'm looking forward to it.
Good.
And yeah.
I mean, I'm certainly excited to have this conversation as well. Ever since I've seen you guys more or less pop up on other social media websites, granted, that's how, word of mouth gets around, but seeing you guys certainly develop a face and getting your name out there, having people come on board and saying wonderful things about you at the end of the day, especially in the current times that we are, that seemingly every other social media website is burning to the ground in a huge, giant pile of fire and rubble and stuff. It's encouraging to see you guys like more or less grow and provide a good platform for artists and creators and such. But before we really divulge into what you guys are doing now, I want to go back just a little bit, if I may. I want to know more or less the origin story of Jay first and foremost. What got you interested in art in the first place?
I honestly, I have no idea. I was
Okay.
drawing art since I was a kid, like Scooby Doo. I would like just draw like my favorite cartoons and everything like that. I never grew out of it, I guess. I was one of those people that had like all their drawings like, taped in their room, like across the board. But I ended up actually going pre-med major
Oh
in
wow.
college. And yeah, and but I always stuck with the art. I was on DeviantArt for a long time. I
Okay.
was, role playing. I was one of those wolfaboos. Drawing my wool, participating in, art and role play groups. But yeah, no, I stuck with it, and I ended up becoming a graphic designer and illustrator. So I run my other company, which is a racing company, and that's pretty much how I stuck with art for so long, is being able to combine two of my favorite things, is racing and art. So I've stuck with it, and I've made a living off of that.
I mean, that's a good like foundation more than anything else, especially hearing how you've been able to grow and especially knowing that like especially starting out like while art was there, it wasn't the priority more than anything else. Hearing how
Right.
you were going to pre-med. Like I
Yeah.
have to ask, when did it go from like a general love that you had and something you did on the side to something that you wanted to make your passion, your career, going away from the standard pre-med stuff and actually devoting yourself to the art career?
So I was working in the hospital for a while. So I've been in and out of the hospital in terms of like working in it. And so, one of my last few jobs was working as a medical scribe. And basically, it was like everyone in the company was also a pre-med major,
Okay.
because it's one of those entry level jobs that you don't need a certificate for, and you don't need any necessary experience. They train you, and then you just get into the hospital working with the doctors and the teams and everything like that. So I was the youngest there. And I say that because they just started the program where you could be a freshman in college and still have this. So
Oh
I was the
wow.
youngest on the team there at the hospital. Yeah. So they were, I was just there for a while. I was there for 4 years, and just kind of seeing my coworkers, which were, again, I was the youngest because they just allowed freshmen. So they were originally only allowing postgraduates.
Okay.
So everyone was working on their master's degree or something like that, or working on getting into med school. And it was just, I was there for 4 years, and no one got into med school.
What?
I was like, what are the odds? And these are all brilliant, talented people, got straight A's, 4.0 GPAs and stuff. And I'm like, what is going on? And they would tell me their plights. They would tell me like, they're applying to these things. And I was like, wow. And I'm like, and they would tell me the ins and outs, like, okay, you don't even need to have this, you don't need to have that. Like, they were giving me the cheat sheets.
Mm-hmm.
But they were like, it was just going nowhere. It was such a dogged fight. So, always, and everything, even doctors have their own hobbies. So racing and drawing was always my hobby, despite being a pre-med major. And then I just decided to make a couple stickers for myself with my drawings. And I was like, some folks were like, hey, could I buy one? And I'm like, well, really? And so then I opened up into this world of people making stickers for cars. And I was like, wow, this is a thing. So I stuck with that. And then, seeing that pre-med major stuff and seeing how dogged of a fight it was, I lost my passion for pre-med and was like, I think I'll just go be an EMT. So I'm a registered EMT. And I was just like, I'm gonna call it there. I love medicine and everything, but I'm gonna just call the EMT, maybe even paramedic one day. I'm just call that even and just stick with that and, do my other stuff because yeah, it's a dog fight for that free med. I mean, good luck to anyone that's doing it.
Oh yeah,
I can't.
I mean, from what you can tell me, it's one of those, like, even if you have like the drive and passion for it, because like you said, there are people that absolutely more than deserve to be in that field and want and should be doctors at this point or whatnot. Right. But like the fact that they were fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting and no progress, that's infuriating more than anything else. Like I could see why it became like a dogged fight at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I was a freshman, and by the time I left there, people were still there, still trying to get into med school, and I had graduated college already.
Jesus.
Yeah.
I any respect to people that are willing to have the patience to go through that stuff just to eventually get to medical school and stuff, because that is just I understand I understand why you wanted to get out of it, but the part that also confused me, I just have to say, racing. I just hearing you talk about that, what got you interested in that in the first place, and how did that become a passion, more or less?
So my grandfathers were mechanics, so I've always been around cars and everything like that. And that's pretty much where that came from. So honestly, it might be in the blood. I don't know. But I was in high school, and basically, my friend who was a friend of my sister, and I guess maybe I should start with this, that my twin sister. So I twin. And so she was a friend of my twin sister, and she was just like, hey, come to the track. I just got this new car. It wasn't new. It was like a 1990 Honda del Sol.
Oh, wow.
And we were like, but it was new to us, right? So, we were at the time like 17, just got our licenses and everything. And so we went to the track and we went to these car meets. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. Like, it's a whole little community. Everyone's just hanging out. And of course, there was illegal parts of it, racing in the industrial yards and stuff like that. But, I'm more on the legal side of things. Take it to the track now. Yep. But, that rush and everything has always been there. And I love cars. Absolutely could talk about them all day.
I can only imagine, but I think you could probably also agree with me, just like the art of the car in a sense or whatnot, not on so many different levels. Like obviously visually, like especially over the years with how many different like things have it added to make a car aesthetically pleasing, especially like some of the art you probably attributed to it or whatnot. Like when it's just right, those are like top line masterpieces that should not be on the road in the first place. Right.
Yeah. And, I'm more into like the modified community. So, there is definitely some beautiful cars, just bone stock, like out the factory. But there is so much there. It becomes an absolute canvas of an art piece when someone modifies their car, and just adds things and changes everything about it. And it's absolutely beautiful.
And I will also say, you have to probably agree with me that whenever they mod it just right, not just externally, but like internally, like whenever you see like and like especially when people add like the certain parts to it or whatnot, especially when they hit it just right and they're just like flying through there, whatnot, that is just poetry in motion.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, they can get really detailed, especially the lowriders, because they, oh my gosh, they get down to the threads.
I'll ask this question: what is, in your opinion, the most gorgeous car you've ever got a chance to see since you got involved in the racing scene?
I would say I don't think I can remember the year, but I would honestly say it's in the 1990s or 80s. I can't remember, but it's a BMW E30. Absolutely amazing. The guy lives in Seattle area. No, not Seattle area. He lives in Oregon. And it's just like this very clean, brown. It's not even like, okay, so I'm probably going to be using terms that you don't know, but it's not wide bodied or anything. It's stock, but it has like these wheels that are amazing. It's lowered. It's just done a masterpiece of a job. And he also has another BMW that's there, and it's beautiful. I'm gonna have to send you a picture.
please do. If nothing else, I'll see if I can like put the photo up on the video version or whatnot, because it just sounds like gorgeous. I mean, more than anything else, like, yeah, I am not fluent in car, but I can admire good looking cars from anywhere. Right?
Yeah.
Like, obviously, like, you know, you admiring cars are one thing, but being involved with it, especially helping out with the aesthetic that you're trying to go for it or whatnot, especially you as an artist, like, what's the process like for you to help whatever, you know, car, whatever driver get that aesthetic they're trying to go for their car?
So it's pretty much, so stickers are actually a very big part of the aesthetics for cars. And like, you know, if there is folks that don't have stickers and there is folks that enjoy it. So there's particular scenes that don't have them. And then there's particular scenes that you absolutely need them. Okay. So there is, it for the most part, I make little slogans or little phrases that are just pertinent to just being a car person. You know, it's some of them is like my favorite one that I've kind of helped be more popular is Hot Boy, basically, and it just means that. It just means that, you know, you're trying to just be cool. You're trying to be, you know, just a car guy. And it's just, that's pretty much what somebody would want, and they would have Hot Boy on their car. I also have like something called Lover Boy, where, you know, some people like hearts and they like that like kawaii aesthetic. Mm-hmm. So the car scene that I'm more known in is, JDM, which is Japanese Domestic Movement. Okay. And that is basically is any Japanese or a Japanese car. There's also Korean cars. That's the KDM movement, which is Korean Domestic Movement. Mm-hmm. And then obviously the US Domestic Movement, where like the Dodge Chargers and everything else like that. But the JDM community is mostly with the stickers because of the aesthetics that we have from Japan, that we see in Japan. So. Okay. That is pretty much, stickers are the core of that movement.
Cat having fun over there?
Yes, my cat is deciding to yell out the window.
That's fine. But no, I mean, obviously, like, I've heard of cars coming from all these different locations, but hearing more or less like the movement they are of trying to get them into like the racing scene or whatnot, like, especially knowing that you're helping out with kind of getting the aesthetic down for what you're trying to go for, that just has to be cool, like just being in that environment in the first place.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, a lot. I seeing it, like going to the grocery store and seeing like my stickers on people's cars is always it's amazing. It's an amazing feeling. People always seeing, like, you know, I make the license plate frames as well, and seeing my license plate frames and everything in my banners on cars. It's always it's definitely a great feeling, and I'm glad that I can help them get to the image that they want or the aesthetic they want for their car.
That's awesome more than anything else. I have to know, like, obviously you said, like, you were getting away from, like, the pre-med stuff, but, like, when did you kind of realize more or less that, like, you could be a part of, like, the cars, of the racing scene and helping out with providing graphic design stickers for that?
That was back in 2019. May of 2019 is when I was like, I went to a car show. And, you know, I was just there chilling out, and I met this girl named Olivia, and she had her own brand, and she was just like, yeah, you know, you could do this too. And, I had tried and dabbled a little bit in it before I went full time. And she just kind of like showed me, like, you know, like people like love having people's art, and, you know, graphic design is art, and they love having like, you know, their way of things on their car to help with their project and to help with their final image. So it was one car show, one person, and I was just like, all right, let's do it. You know, I was a little scared, and now I'm just taking this whole jump, and it went from there, really.
And seeing that not only you decided to take that jump more or less, but now to the point to where you're seeing your stuff all over the place, you know, seeing license plates with your stuff or whatnot. Again, it's got to be surreal at the end of the day, seeing how far you've been able to come since you decided, you know what, screw the medical stuff, I'm going with this.
Right. Yeah. It's very. I feel very blessed to be able to do it full time. I'm mostly on Instagram. It's my. I guess I should say it is Fatal Flaw. And
Okay.
I also have a subcategory named Fatal Racing. And basically, yeah, it's been a great journey. I really love it. I used to host car meets.
Oh,
I
there you
used
go.
to. Yeah, I go down to the track. I have so many connections in the car community, and it really fostered my sense for community, and in helping the community, and just realizing that we all need community. So it's been such a good experience in the sense that yes, my art is out in the world, but also it has kind of let me realize that there's nothing better than sharing a passion with someone.
Right, exactly. So it's like sharing not only that passion, but sharing a passion with a community of people that absolutely love it. And you've certainly taken that to not just with the car shows, but to other aspects in life, to the point to where you decide to develop your own community for artists. With, as I said,
Yeah.
with what I started off at the beginning, talking about founding InkBlot. Now,
Yeah.
again, talk about community, right? Now, for those who may be curious on what exactly I'm talking about in the first place, what is InkBlot?
InkBlot is a social platform for creators, mostly artists, but also musicians, writers, anyone that loves to create, and anyone that loves to support creators.
Absolutely. So, what inspired you to decide to go on this path and create this social media platform in the first place?
So it does go back to Fatal Flaw just a little bit, and
Okay.
so Fatal Flaw, I have a decent following on Fatal Flaw. I won't I won't say that it's huge, and that has been my bread and butter. That basically every time I post or anything, it gets me a sale, it gets me something, and things like that. So that's how I've been able to make a living as a full-time artist, basically.
Hmm.
So when Instagram started rolling out their algorithm changes, at first it was pretty easy to keep up. Pretty predictable. You could just meet a certain requirement. Like for example, you could have it so that if you had 100 likes within the first hour of posting, your post would be okay.
Okay.
And then there was sometimes where it was like if you posted at this certain time, you'd be fine. And you could keep up with those kind of algorithms, but then they started making it way more unpredictable, just
Hmm.
absolutely just crazy. So I was just getting frustrated with that because, of course, my sales were declining, and I went full time off of this. So at the same time, DeviantArt was rolling out Eclipse. And I had been on DeviantArt for years, a decade or more. And I was just like, they're not listening to us. Like the people that make this platform, that make up their user base, they're not listening to us. Like, how does that happen? Like, like who's not listening? Like, why is that not clicking for them? And they continue to not. So May of 2020 is when Eclipse rolled out officially. I think it was May 20th of 2020. And you'll see that the foundation date for InkBlot is actually May 25th,
Oh, there you
2020.
go.
Yeah. So I had a conversation with a few friends and on Discord, and I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna do it. So I got a couple of sketches, and I still have them. And I just was like, I'm just gonna do it. So I made a landing page, I made a Twitter, and I was like, okay, let's do this. So that's how that started.
The humble beginnings of just because other social media websites were shit. As if that has changed anytime soon.
It has not.
If anything, it's gotten somehow worse.
Right. Yeah, really.
Not naming any particular names, Melon Usk or whatnot.
Yes. Watermelon oosk.
Watermelon Usk, there you go. So, it's one thing, at least in my opinion, it's one thing to commit yourself to a different social media website in the first place, like
Right.
trying to get started on there and trying to develop your fan base there. It's another thing to commit yourself to creating a social media website. So I have to know, like, why did you decide that that was going to be the best route possible, and how did you even get started in the first place? Because I wouldn't even know where to start with that.
I definitely didn't know where to start. I was first of all, I didn't know a line of code, so trying to figure out what's the best method to do this. Where do we go from here? And I was just like, all right, well, at least I need some idea of what I like what would I want to see? And so I went from like, all right, so, instead of like, it was always going to be a platform. So never did I think it was going to be like some Discord or like a community. I was like, it's always going to have to be a platform, social media, website. So I found some tools and that could help me learn logic of coding and coding everything. I started with Adalo, which was another startup company that kind of helped you make apps without really knowing code. But at the end of the day, it was always just going to be for MVP, which is the most viable product. So just a prototype, essentially. So it was just a good low financial way or cheap financial way of getting into this and seeing if there was going to be any interest in the first place.
Just getting a foot in the door to see how exactly you can develop it from there.
Right, exactly. And really, again, just seeing it, like, if anyone was going to be interested, because there's a lot of money that goes into making a website, and paying $50 a month was a very low way of putting your foot in the door
compared to what some people pay. Yeah, I mean, some people just pay a flat fee of $44 billion. But go on.
Right, exactly. Yes, the easy way. So I did that, and that was for a while, very long time. I spent 3 months making that first prototype before I opened the closed beta, which is basically just invite only for those that don't know. And it was like the first 50 users, which I still remember my first 50 users who they are actually still on the platform today.
Hell yeah.
Very nice to see. They've been there for so long. So shout out to them. And they, it just went from there. I opened up the Patreon at that point. And then, just realizing that if someone is supporting this, then there's a need for it. So that Patreon really, I was only making like $20 a month, but, I was like, hey, there's people that are willing to pay for this and see this through. So I need to continue, It's at some point I was doing it for those people on the Patreon, and I only had 9 people, at the end. I was doing it for them. I was like, you got to keep going. And, I like to say that my friends also, they were using the prototype as well. So whenever I would log on, I would see their art and everything and them posting. And I'm like, I'm doing it for them too, and they would post on it and they're believing in what I'm doing. Right. And so I did, that was a year and a half before I started the Kickstarter. So, but yeah, that was the prototype. That's pretty much where the starting point of like, okay, it has to be a social platform. And obviously those people that were believing in me so much that they would send a few dollars to me, I was like, yeah, I guess it has to be this way.
Yeah. I mean, like, especially knowing, because you said it obviously from the start, like it started for you because you wanted a good social media platform in the first place. Like you knew from the start it was going to be that social platform. There was no hesitation when it comes to that. It's not like you were creating an app to, I don't know, sell other people's art or something like that. Jesus Christ, I hope not.
Right. Right, yeah.
But like, like the fact that you wanted to develop that community more than anything else, like how important is it for you whenever you were making this social platform to not only just provide a place for artists, but provide a community for them to learn about each other and grow?
So I'll be honest, that was actually not on my agenda at first. I was strictly so the Discord right now that we have for InkBlot, which is public now, it was purely business. There was no posting art in there. There was no memes. There was no nothing. I mean, there was some casual conversation that some folks would have, but it was a purely business type of thing for the Q&A testing. I was more focused on trying to get this somewhere before I was like, okay, let's focus on the people side of things. But it's grown. That Discord has grown over the last few years. It was around 200, and it started being 400. We're now at over 1,000 people in that Discord, and just okay.
No, I'm reacting to hearing 1,000 people in a single Discord.
Oh
like
my gosh,
goodness.
Yeah, it's 1,000 people in a Discord, so I have no idea how to run that. So shout out to my Discord moderators. who are experienced enough and know what they're looking for, what needs to be done to run a community server like that.
Right.
But it's really been what has, besides the Discord, it has been also just people reaching out to me and just saying, and I don't want to get emotional or anything, but just saying like, thank you so much for making this. Like I'm back in the community now. Like I can feel like I'm among other people, like among my peers, because it's just been so disconnected these last few years for us. And time and time again, we've had to move from platform to platform. And how many people are we losing each time that we do that?
Oh, yes.
Like how many people are lost? Like what friendships and relationships have you missed out on because a corporation wants to say, no, you can't post that, or we're going to do it our way and not listen to you. So it's just been, that has really sunken in the sense that from people just saying thank you so much privately to in private channels, and just even in the server itself, like some people have really come out of their shell. They're like, hey, I wouldn't even talk like this normally, but I really feel the community here. So that community has slowly kind of come to me from this side. Like in the car scene, I developed it very quickly, very fast.
Okay.
But for the art, it was more like, okay, for InkBlot, it's been like, okay, business, and then people kind of like notifying me like, you've created a community, and I'm like, wait, I did that? Like, I did that? And then I have to realize like, oh, I did. So it's I guess it's more so with the Fatal Flaw, the racing part, I walked into a community.
Okay.
With this, I created one, and I didn't really realize that until a little bit further in.
It's one of those, it wasn't exactly the priority, but it's kind of more or less weaved itself into the DNA of what InkBlot is.
Yes, exactly.
So
yes.
I have to ask this then, what was exactly the goal of InkBlot whenever you first started it?
It was definitely just a place like, so I always keep saying I'm a hobbyist artist.
Okay.
I'm not technically. I'm a full-time artist, but I like to say I'm a hobbyist because that's what I was when I was in pre-med for so long.
Fair.
So yeah, I made it for the hobbyist artist. I was like, we need a place to hang out. We need a place that, just like all of my friends. So I guess, I really probably missed the mark, right? I probably missed the mark when making this because all of my friends are from DA. I met all of my online friends from DA, and we are still friends to this day. We're coming up on a decade of friendship. So yeah. I really should say that I made it for friendship, and to find a community that are people to hang out with and enjoy art and things like that. So InkBlot has it's definitely grown in the sense like, we are working on a commission system and stuff like that, in order to help, creators get paid. But it was definitely always for community.
Okay. So it wasn't for community, but it was for community. I get what you're getting at. It's one of those, like, it was intended just for a place, like just a platform more or less for you at the end of the day, but it has grown to become a platform for many now.
I actually don't even have a personal account on my own website.
What?
I don't.
Well, I mean, okay.
I don't even post on it.
I mean, to be fair, if you look at, so I'm sure. Well, I'm thinking like, okay, Mark Zuckerberg has his page. Even before Elon Musk, Jack, who ran Twitter, whatnot, had his own page. Who started?
Right.
Yeah, you know what? That is kind of confusing. How come you don't have your own personal page for it? Like that? Do you at least have like a Fatal Flaw one?
No, I don't. I don't. I have like I have one for like testing purposes, so it's
okay.
InkBlot. But otherwise, I don't even post on it.
I mean, you know what? You start making it for your own personal one right there. Since you have. I mean, is technically the first user of the website right there? Because I imagine that was the first one that had to be created.
It's the InkBlot, like the InkBlot company one, yes, but mine, no.
Okay, it's at least like a top 5 one. You have to preserve that for history more than anything else.
Unfortunately, I don't even think I'm the top 5.
Well, there goes my argument out the window. Fair enough. But you know what? Like, it's incredible, more or less, like I said, the fact that you've been able to develop this like incredible community for this, like I would say that like InkBlot is kind of like it's different compared to some of the other ones out there. How, in your opinion, is InkBlot like different compared to some of the other social media websites out there, like a DeviantArt or a Tumblr or a Twitter and Instagram? How is it different? How is it unique?
It's because I mean, I would like to say that it's probably, not to toot my own horn or anything, but like it's because it's ran by people that are in the community.
There
Like
you go.
that's the difference. It's there's not too much different from it. It's a community space, and DeviantArt is community space as well. It is has the social aspects of Tumblr and Twitter and things like that. But the difference is that we listen. The difference is that I am also a part of the community, and I go through the same challenges and tribulations that they do. So I understand them on a very personal level, and would it make things that they don't agree with, and wouldn't do things that they would not use, and things like that. So that's the core difference between us and them. Obviously, artists have, creators have always found a community or made a community on platforms that weren't for them. Twitter is definitely not an art gallery. It was never made for artists. It's actually a news and sports channel
Yeah.
platform. So it's definitely not for us, but we have found a way. We are resilient, and we continue to prove that. But yeah, there's not much different in terms of like, what we have to offer, the features and things like that. But it's more so how it's ran in the missions that we are going, or that we are taking.
I will say, just right off the bat, like one of the most unique features that I only figured out about recently when it comes to InkBlot is the cool feature you guys added to where you can show like basically a before and after piece or whatnot, like having the what's the word I'm looking for? Having being able to like have the little slider. That's what I was looking for. Having the slider to show like the before and after of like a piece, something like that. That is one of the coolest features I've ever seen on any site.
Yes, it is. Our comparison slider is definitely our number one. And I hope to make more like that. And not just to, it is cool. And from like a marketing standpoint, like we have that, like, that's the number one feature and stuff. But we definitely want to provide more tools,
Right.
provide more types of features that are more art oriented. Like it's different from just posting a status on Facebook. You know what I mean? Like you need to have drawn something, or you need to have created something to use this post. You know what I mean? And so that's different from the status post, which we have. We have status posts, we have video posts, we have everything else. But that comparison slider is specifically for a creator, and someone who creates. And it's definitely one of our favorites, and I'm hoping that we can continue to create stuff like that, because again, we are for creators and people who love creating, just yeah. So that's definitely one of our favorites, and we hope to keep providing more tools like that.
No, absolutely. I sincerely cannot wait for more tools like that. But I did want to go back just a hair, and I want to talk about something you emphasized. Not only the fact that one of the most unique things about InkBlot is the fact that it is ran by artists, it is supported by artists more than anything else. How important was it for you as InkBlot started to grow that you had artists behind it help run the thing?
It's very important to me. So when I'm hiring and when I'm screening for moderator volunteers, or whether it be staff, I'm looking for folks that are actually involved in the community. So I actually asked the question of, how do you fit into the community? What is your involvement with it? And how are you a creator? So it doesn't have to be just an artist. It can be a musician. It can be a writer. It can be a photographer. I've interviewed all types of different creators that want to apply to our team. But I want to keep someone that is always that is a creator, that knows what we're going through, that that can relate. I listened to, it was a recent Twitter space with DeviantArt, and their COOs, CEO, CTO, and pretty much the whole board was in there when they released that AI generator. In listening to them, they were just so far removed from like knowing what we want and what we don't like. Like you could just listen to them, and it was just like, wow, you have absolutely no idea, like that we don't, what we like and what we do, and what we're facing here and how we feel about this. Like, so my thing with that is that I don't want anyone on the team that has no idea what's going on or how we feel. Like that's not going to move InkBlot forward. It's going to hinder it. That's a disadvantage to everyone, including ourselves, to be making a space for creators and to have someone that has no idea like how it is to be a creator. So it's very important to me. I could talk about it all day.
Oh, I can only imagine. I mean, it's a podcast. You're more than welcome to ramble, but obviously, as listening to creators, I feel like that's such a novel concept for some reason. Like the people that are driving more people to potentially come to these platforms or whatnot, actually listening to them and giving them opportunity to help support them or whatnot. That's obviously why that all these different sites are implementing AI art, NFTs, crypto bullshit. All this wonderful stuff because they just, they know what's best for artists without saying a single word to them.
Right. Yeah.
So
it's rough.
It is rough, but I'm glad that you're actually providing that kind of mentality in the first place, because again, like for some reason out there in the other social media worlds, it seems like a novel concept, but like the fact that you're actually taking the time to step back, listen to what people have to say or whatnot, like that's one of the things I appreciate about you guys more than anything else.
Yeah, people like to be heard, it's cool to talk and everything, but people genuinely like to be heard. There's a couple of things that are on the website even right now is because of the feedback that we have gotten. It's not, there's things that people mention to us and see like, hey, this would work better if we did it this way, and da 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 da. And it's definitely the feedback that is shaping InkBlot. So I like to say in the community halls and our streams, like, at some point everyone's gonna have placed a brick on this house. So we're making a home, and everyone is gonna have a part in it. And whether that has been just a bug report, whether that have been just a piece of feedback that we took and we placed it on the site, things like that. So everyone's help is making this house, and that's what we want. And it's very important to listen to everyone, especially when you're creating something for that community. Otherwise, you lose its purpose.
Yeah, I mean, especially considering the fact that, like, at this point, like, yeah, you guys aren't the newest thing on the block, but you're still, like, growing, you're still developing, you're still creating something, which is something that for people that, if this is not their first time hearing about InkBlot or whatnot, I do want to emphasize for the people out there, InkBlot is not something that just popped up just because Elon is destroying Twitter. That's something that, if you want to go ahead and emphasize and go off on that, please do, but, like, yeah, no, it's something you guys have been around for a while, developing, making something.
Yes, we've been around since May 2020, so 2.5 years, or a couple more than a half. But yeah, we've been around for quite a while. The closed beta started in September of 2020. We had a Kickstarter, which was successful, and we launched that. We got about $29,000 to be able to launch Pad off into open beta.
There you go.
And basically, yeah, we've been running ever since. It's definitely not our first year. We're about to go into our third. I like to say that, we're new to each other, but we're not new.
There you go. So does it amaze you more or less how much you guys have been able to develop this kind of community of artists in the first place? Like, does it blow your mind just how much, like, we said this before, but like you're getting close to 20,000 users on your website. Does it surprise you more or less how much you've been able to develop in the almost 3 years since InkBlot started?
It does, and the staff has to remind me actually, because I'm always looking forward. Like I cannot turn around and just give myself a pat on the back. I usually have to be forced to do that. It's the number is big. It's definitely a huge milestone for us. But it's also like I'm not stopping because I know where I want this to be. I know what we need as a community, and I'm constantly trying to say yes. I'm trying to be happy about our achievements that we've accomplished, but I'm also like, we got to keep going. We got to keep going. But yes, it does blow my mind when I sit back. I like to. Are we okay to curse on here? Or?
Oh yeah, I do not give a fuck. Go for it. Go all in.
I was in my a Discord with my friends, and I was like, "Who the fuck let me make a social platform?" And it was like one of those times where I sit back and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what did I do? So, there are those times where I realize I'm like, wow, we've come so far and wow, this has grown so large. But it's overall a good feeling for sure.
Well, that's good. It's incredible. And honestly, as someone that, is a creator himself and is, growing a community slowly but surely as well, I asked that question as well. Why the fuck are all these people here?
Yes.
Like, thank you, but why?
Right. Yes.
Again, we're kind of, I'm not going to say we're cut from the same cloth, but I will say, we're both people that try our best at the end of the day to, support creators, support artists, really let people, showcase themselves and really let them thrive more than anything else. Because you can attest to this as someone that, tried to slum it out when it comes to Instagram as well. It's really hard for a creator to really be successful on social media.
It is, and it's a social media is a blessing and a curse, and it's I'm able to run my other company from the safety of my own home and ship out things into the world and be able to meet so many different people. But it's also we are reliant. We're playing on someone else's playground. We're in someone else's front yard, and when they tell us to get off, it's time to go. That's it. We can't really complain about it, and it's free, and it's something that we don't really need to do. But when they made those algorithms, it started not being so free. It started not being so fun to play in this front yard, and that's where it really started getting interesting, because they're also kind of being predatory towards small businesses and creators, because they know that we've made these platforms, we've made our own livings and platforms off of social media. But now they're like, okay, well, you got to pay to play essentially now, and they know that. And they know that there's really not nowhere else to go. But I'm thinking that if we can make InkBlot another place to go, then they'll see just how much they need us versus we need them.
Absolutely. Imagine knowing that obviously, there are, you guys are going up. It's right now InkBlot is currently unranked if we're putting this in different terms or whatnot, but you're going up against top 5 opponents or whatnot when it comes to, what's going on out there. But at the same time, the fact that you guys are still trying to pull off more or less, I'll say it, the underdog story of still trying to survive and thrive and, maybe not take the top spot, but at least show the top dogs that, hey, we're here to play. We're not here just to back down more than anything else. It's admirable more than anything else, knowing that you're providing this incredible platform for artists. I can only imagine dealing with those top dogs, trying to, get the website up in the first place. I have to ask, what's been more or less the biggest hurdle for you guys since starting InkBlot?
So the biggest hurdle actually hasn't even been the top social giants. It has actually been other small companies and startups like us, which is, yes, it actually has. So there has been projects and startups, and I say projects and startups as two different things because some of these sites have actually been a college project. So yeah. So we've seen a couple come and go over the last few years, and the only one that I probably would back and also say is another good, viable platform that I believe in and would love to be in. And as a competitor, I'm very happy to say I'm a competitor against, is Artfoil. And that's pretty much about it. There has been sites like Buzzly and Cheesy and ArtRise, and they have just caused a lot of hesitation in the community because they burned so many bridges because of how they presented themselves, how they went about things. Pretty much the founders not being, in Buzzly's sense, the founders not being great. So, and I'm not here to mudsling, but I am telling the truth in the sense that, it has caused the hesitation, it has caused the distrust with other startups. So again, it hasn't actually been Twitter or Instagram because they actually let themselves down. But it really has. But it's actually been just people that are trying to accomplish the same thing as us. Cheesy was a college project from, just some guy just, making a site for his college class. He just didn't have the funds to be able to hold that. But we are so in need of a space that we just was like blindfolded and just like, okay, here we go. Like, here's the next thing. But, they ended up closing down because, again, he didn't have the resources. There was no business plan. It was just a college project. So again, it's really, another site that I would say is good competitor and another peer in this race is probably Artfoil. And I haven't heard anything, I guess, bad about them that would make me not really want to say anything about them. Versus Buzzley, but I have to say that Artfoil is good, and the guys that are making that over there, shout out to them, and I hope them the best as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, like, obviously you're creating your platform, you're trying to develop it as well, but like, you can also test this, because I think of the same mentality whenever I see like other art podcasts or something like that. Like, at the end of the day, like, they're trying to do what they think is best to help promote the art community and help really grow artists in general. And I mean, like you said, they don't seem to be problematic, knock on wood, hopefully, more than anything else.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, as long as they're providing a space for artists to help them grow, who are you to argue? You just got to keep doing your own thing, right? Going to the beat of your own drum.
Right. I would rather have our community to be able to have another option. So yeah, I'm happy for them to be there. I would love for them to continue and be there because maybe InkBlot is not the place for some people, and that's okay. Like, I really don't mind it. Find your space, find something that you believe in. There's thousands of websites and thousands of places. We're just one. There's just one drop in the bucket, and that's about it. And good luck to anyone that wants to create another thing, because we need options. We desperately do.
But let's talk about the option that you're presenting, like, super quickly. I want to ask this question, again, it's incredible to have all these other options and whatnot, but obviously, like, at the end of the day, you're providing a good option as well. So I want to know, like, what is your guys' goals in terms of, like, supporting and really promoting artists? What is like the goal for you guys to make sure that artists truly know that they are loved and supported at the end of the day?
So first of all, obviously listening to them. But we want to be able to help not only just the hobbyist artist, but also the person that wants to try to make a living, so someone that's dabbling in it, the freelancer artist. I wouldn't say that we are catering to professional artists. I don't want to say that because there is ArtStation, and that's a totally different vibe, totally different playground over there. So again, I'm a hobbyist at heart, so I really am for that person that just wants to make a drawing every other week and call it a day, and just post and share it. So, but we do have options for like tip jars and things like that, and commission systems and stuff like that. And then also trying to help out with that corner of the market that Patreon has a whip on, basically. So we'll have like a membership system as well. Okay. So being able to provide the social aspect as well as the tools needed to make it out there on living off of your passion. Just being able to provide that while listening to everyone and making sure that we just have a space forever, and that's owned by the community right now, because looking at DA, like how many people were paying core and their money helping make that AI generator. Like, that's gross. Like, that's for me, gross. If I was paying core, if I was paying core and they ran out with that, I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I'm attributing to that. Like, that's some of my money in there to make that. So we're going to be community funded forever. And we're going to try to apply to grants and stuff. But otherwise, we don't want to have people having a hand in our pocket here, in our space. So it's to help the everyday artists. It's to help anyone that just loves to create, and also the supporters as well. People that just love to support creators and artists and things like that.
Absolutely. And I do appreciate what you guys have been able to provide so far to really support those artists or whatnot, and like listening to them more than anything else, giving them that opportunity, giving so many different voices on so many different communities, like a universal like opportunity to speak out and really like help you guys grow at the end of the day. Like, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate not only you guys, like, you're not just championing just artists in general, you're championing so many different kinds of artists. You're challenging artists of different races, artists of different, in the LGBTQ community, artists of of different, different aspects of life. Like, I appreciate everything that you guys are pushing forward right now, like trying to get those voices heard at the end of the day.
Yeah, 100%, and like I said before, people like to be listened to, and that's 100% because, you can't keep it in every day. You can't, like, you just being able to just to shout and scream about something is always nice. But you need to be listened to at the end of the day. Like, what is the message that you are shouting and screaming about? And then how can we move forward and help solve that problem?
Absolutely, absolutely. Which is why I'm glad I have you here, because my voice needs to be heard. No, I'm joking. I did want to say I have used obviously InkBlot a good number of times, and I'm starting to get a little bit more comfortable with it. It's kind of one of those you could probably attest to this. Whenever you're starting off like a brand new, whenever you're starting off with a new website, like or a brand new social media platform, you're trying to get comfortable with it, trying to get understanding of it more than anything else. I'll say like the biggest issue I have at this point is the mobile app. It's probably partially because I got like an older phone, more or less. It might not run as well, but like, I also understand that, again, you guys are growing and developing that. The most recent update you guys had, 1.8.2, correct me if I'm wrong. That was like, it certainly helped out a little bit because I'm actually able to actually open it without it closing in 30 seconds. That's how bad my phone is. But yeah, it's like getting that and like understanding the UI or whatnot, trying to see kind of stuff like that. Like, I'm still growing to become comfortable with it. But at the end of the day, I see the potential more than anything else. And that's what I love to see about you guys, seeing how the discoverability I am for artists that I may have never heard about before, and seeing some of their art pieces. Like the art pieces I've been able to see in the few times I've been able to be on there or whatnot. Oh, I'm blown away with seeing what artists are able to push out there as well. Starting to develop my community on there, starting to see what other artists I've had, either previously on the podcast or people that have supported the podcast, having them kind of grow together and seeing their art or whatnot is something I'm excited about more than anything else. And I know that, again, you guys aren't brand new to the market, but you guys are still growing, and I see that growing, and I see that development, and at the end of the day, like, it's the potential that I'm more or less excited for, seeing how far InkBlot can grow.
Yes. Yeah. We definitely have those bugs. We have our crash analytics, and we're trying to fix and kind of get everything tweaked with that. But I always like to tell people, I'm like, we update once a week. That's literally the fastest we can do. But a lot of people have mentioned the potential. And what I like to kind of explain is this is our MVP. So I mentioned it before. It's pretty much most viable product is usually what is brought to some investors, a group of investors, and you're like, hey, here's this thing, and here's it. It looks really nice right now, but it's not at its full potential. But if you were to help me make it really nice, then you can be a part of it too. So we aren't going to investors. Our community is our investors, right? So this is our MVP. This is just the beginning. Everyone, Twitter has been an MVP, Facebook has been an MVP at some point, but it's been given the funds and the money because of the potential that they saw in that MVP to be able to grow to what the monsters that it is today. So we are an MVP, and that's pretty much what everyone is seeing right now. So I'm really happy to hear that everyone can see the potential, because that is what an MVP is supposed to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know at least, right off the bat, when I first used the website, I donated $50 for your guys' coffee, and I'm gonna plan on donating more to help you guys like grow, because I definitely want to see more with this. Yeah, that was me.
Oh, awesome.
I'm more than happy to help. I'm more than happy to support you guys more than anything else. Like I said, because I know that, like, at the end of the day, even just with this conversation that we've had alone, I know there's a lot of love and support that you want to give to these artists, and providing them a good, strong, safe space. And like hearing that not only you're just creating this just to eventually sell off to some millionaire so that they can do their tweaks or whatnot. Like hearing that you guys are not going to just specific investors, you're technically going to all the investors, because we all could potentially be investors if we wanted to. Like hearing that that's the basis of this more than anything else, again, it adds more excitement and hype to what I want to see with InkBlot.
Yeah, we are 100% trying to stay community funded. It's definitely a risk that we take with something like that, because as a community, and from a business standpoint, I know my target audience, and I know our income, and we aren't we aren't millionaires, that's for sure. We're not like with my target audience for Fatal Flaw, like car guys, they get paid pretty well. They are not people that are just that have to create, and it takes days or weeks to be able to create something and then sell it. Car guys get paid hourly. They're pretty well. They were doing well in essential workers during the pandemic. And that was able to keep Fatal Flaw running because they didn't have to get shut down or anything. They still had to work as on cars and stuff. Right. So for artists, the whole term of the starving artist and everything, we have to make our paywall really low, right? So we have to have the $3 and the $1 and stuff because we are aware that our audience is not millionaires. Right. But we are still trying to, work with the community to be our investors so that we're able to keep them in control of everything. Because the moment that you give a percentage of the company away, they're usually asking for board power. Right. They're usually asking for, you're going to do this or else I'm withdrawing my money, or else you're going to owe me, stuff like that. So if we can have the community put faith in us and also invest in us, even if it is just $1 or $3, then that is better than going over to some millionaire and, I'm a very blunt person, so going over to some cisgender white guy millionaire that's going to be like, oh, well, I don't want this gay shit on here, so take it off. And we
Valid.
And essentially we would have to dance to that tune, right? Like we would have to, because most millionaires are, I guess that's a whole different story. But anyway, but that's essentially what it is. I'm queer and I'm Black, and I know that. Not having a safe space for queer people and also for POC is very important.
Yes.
And it's truly important. And then also, even just getting into NSFW, that's also important. Queer, NSFW is also inherently queer as well. So just having those safe spaces, trying to protect those spaces is a full-time job, and one of that is staying community owned.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was gonna say, I'm not exactly, again, same when it comes to saying, like, I try to as best to also like amplify those voices when I can. Like, I know I'm a straight white guy as well, but also like, hey, I'm trying whatever I can to amplify those different voices as much as I can.
Ally.
Exactly. That's why I try to do it, be at the end of the day. And again, hearing that you're also providing that space, really trying to amplify those voices more than anything else. Once again, I am nothing short of just excited to see what could potentially be happening when it comes to InkBlot. So I have to know, like, for you ultimately, what is there an end goal for InkBlot, or at the very least, where would you like to see InkBlot eventually develop into?
I definitely want to see it do what it's doing right now with all the systems fully running. It's stable. We have a team. We have hopefully millions of users. We're going to conventions. We're offering scholarships to creators. We're offering grants to creators. We're able to uplift specific, marginalized groups like, POC creators or LGBTQ plus creators. We're offered to, honestly, I was even thinking about just, us being able to have our own studio for animation and be able
Hell
to,
yeah.
People. Yeah. I mean, I want to take it far. Like, I want us to be able to have control of the things that we create, and I know the animation community has been hit so hard this year in the last few years, really.
Tell me about it.
with all the layoffs and everything. And I'm like, what if we grow to so big? And not if, I hate saying if, it's when we grow to be big enough to be able to provide these things, and we have the power and we're in control. Like, there is no layoffs because we made that, and this piece of media is ours, and you're not going to delete it and stuff like that. So I want it to be huge. I want it to be everything and more. And we are in control of that as a community.
Absolutely. I would love to see just like a dedicated space for you guys more than anything else, to be able to like get that stuff going one way or another. Have people like dedicated servers to make sure this stuff doesn't, like, if it does, rarely crash or whatnot. And, dedicated studios to have like the animation stuff being provided. I could think just like InkBlot Studios or whatever you want to name it or whatnot. Which does lead me to a question I forgot to ask sooner, and it's more or less when it comes to the naming or less the branding. Where did InkBlot come from, like the name itself?
So I was ready for this question, actually.
Okay.
So I have this note on my phone, and it says all of the names that I actually was gonna go with.
Okay.
Man, let me see if I can find it here. But yeah, InkBlot actually, I had this list, and I went in my friend's Discord. And I was like, hey, there's this list, because they knew that I was starting InkBlot, around that time. And I was like, okay, so, here's a couple. What do you think? And one of them was called Blotter. And then my friend, shout out to my friend, they were like, how about InkBlot? And I was like, okay. And they were mentioning, they kept talking about InkBlot art, like the actual, like, I can't say it. I'm probably going to really, I'm going to mess this one up, like Rorschach or something like that testing, where, you make ink and
Rorschach test.
Yes, that one. And you make, you see what's this blot of ink. What are you seeing to look at it? So this was dated May 16th, 2020.
Okay.
And so I had a couple. I had Avanti, I had Avarti, I had Mosaic, I had Vizian, Vizio, Artsy, Artivia, I had Art Hive. Thank God I didn't do that.
One second. Time out. I'm looking back. Artivia sounds like an off-brand yogurt or something like that.
Listen. I was trying.
I'm commending you for the credit. I'm just saying. I heard the Artivia and I thought Artivia.
Yup. You're right. For me, I instantly think of yoga pants for some reason.
Yeah, fair enough. So you got Artsy, Artivia. What are the names you got on that list?
I got Xbit. I got Blotter, like I said.
Mm-hmm.
I have Hypish. I had Mosaic. I had Sitch, like from Kim Possible. What's the Sitch?
Okay.
I had Nimble, and then I had Vex.
Okay.
So none of those except for Blotter was the closest thing. My friend was the one that actually was like, "What about InkBlot?"
Okay.
And I said, and obviously everyone thinks of like the butterfly when the butterfly ink test, and that's when I was like, you know what, let's go with that. Like, and I was looking at the InkBlot tests, and I was like, oh, the butterfly, and then like, oh, social platform, social butterfly, right? So I went with that, and that's how it came about.
I appreciate how you basically made that more or less like a nod or like an emphasis of that when it comes to your guys' logo as well, because I didn't even think about that. I mean, that's a whole nother level of intrigue. I commend you. Good for that one. That's a good job.
Thank you. Thank you. But yeah, that's how we got to the name. And that's how that's why we go for butterfly, a red butterfly. There's no when I commission artists for some of our pieces and stuff, I always try to have a butterfly in there. And I know there's no red monarch butterfly or anything like that. But the red butterfly is just a fictional thing.
Yeah, fair. I mean, hey, this is your guys' platform. You can make it whatever you want. You can make it like, 20 different shades of black if you wanted to. All right. Like, let's be honest. I will say though, the red monarch, very aesthetically pleasing. I really do appreciate that. So there you go.
Yeah, no, that's definitely my graphic design experience type thing, because I know red is kind of like a popping thing. The red white is like a good eye catcher, and just obviously being able to have like a actual logo is something that you want someone to be able to identify. So like we always identified a little bird with Twitter and things like that.
Yep. Fair enough. Well, Jay, we've been talking a good bit about InkBlot and obviously your history when it comes to art and all those different aspects. But for this next question, if I may, I want to give you more or less the dream scenario, if I may. Okay. Let's say I am Big Shot Mr. Moneybags. I come to you, I'm like, look, Jay, first off, don't be hostile. I'm here to help you guys out. I see a lot of incredible stuff, and I want to. There's a lot of stuff you could potentially do here. You just need like a little extra push more than anything else. Mm-hmm. We have access to anyone and everyone in whatever industry possible, and more money than there should be possible. We should probably be emphasizing more voices, but that's part of the reason why we're here. We're here to emphasize those voices. Right. If given this opportunity, what would be the Dream J Brown project or the Dream InkBlot project?
What would be the dream? Like, so if we had unlimited money and unlimited resources, like of who to go to.
Just doing whatever you want, like whatever would be the dream end all be all like project for either you or InkBlot, or maybe it's both, whatever you want.
I mean, I don't know if I don't know if I would change anything. I feel like we're really doing what we got here.
Okay.
I mean, it would just be to have a full team, really. I
Okay.
mean, I would just love to have a full team and dedicated to doing like a team doing the fixing the website and the team fixing the mobile apps and staff for support and moderator team and a community manager and that's it. I'm very humble. I only take what we absolutely need. I would love to be able to have the studio and all the other stuff in the future. But yeah, I guess we're kind of on the way of what we need, and
Hey.
and that's it. I think I'm more humble in that because it's like I know that this is the money of my community,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm not going to be frivolous with it.
Right. Fair enough. Fair enough. I mean, it's one of those, again, just because I provide this doesn't mean you have to go like all the way. Like, I want a gold-plated building for this. Like, you don't have to do that kind of thing. Like,
Oh, it would be really cool if we could have a little. I mean, I would love it. I mean, I would love to be able to work with my staff. Like we're all
yeah,
remote.
yeah.
And I would love to be able to do that. Like having a spot in I want to say like maybe Oregon, or somewhere I don't want California.
Understandable.
Oregon, yeah, Oregon or Washington, and just being able to just have a spot like a hangout place, and also in pair with like the animation studio and like a place that has like an art studio for artists to be able to come and draw and learn and like art classes and stuff like that. I've always dreamed about that, but I think that's about it. No gold plates or
Yeah.
anything. Just a place to come hang out, grab a coffee, and also for staff to be able to see each other.
Exactly. That's all. I mean, again, just because I provide the end all be all doesn't mean you have to make it like overly exuberant. If that's the ultimate dream, who am I to complain? So,
Yeah, right, right.
but sadly, we have to get down from the dream scenario. We gotta get back to reality, ever so sadly.
Man.
And I'll ask the ever so generic question: where do you
Uh,
hope to see yourself 5 to 10 years from now?
Definitely those two teams. Uh, Obviously, everyone is getting paid, including the moderator staff, because right now we're off of volunteers. There's only 6 people that get paid. I mean, 5 people that get paid. It is the 4 staff members who are our support team and our developer.
Okay.
Everyone else, excluding myself, is a volunteer. So I mean, including myself is a volunteer. So I don't get paid or anything like that. The moderator team is volunteers, and the people that do the support end of things and development is getting paid. So everyone on the team getting paid in order to do that, offering those scholarships, going to conventions, or having our own convention, that'd be great. But I definitely don't want to be a Tumblr convention 0.0. Tumblr con.
Wait, you don't want your own ball pit in the random
No,
auditorium?
no,
I would have that just as like a gag, like more than anything else, just for shits and giggles, just to have just a random
Rub it
ball
off.
pit. There you
Rub
go.
it off.
Rub it
Like,
off
don't
as well.
even, this is display. But yeah, us going to conventions, providing those scholarships and grants, just really, really community based. Just making sure that we're at a point where we're able to fund the team to keep the whole thing running and all the expenses and stuff. Again, I'm just really humble in that, in the sense of just want to make sure that it's running.
I mean, that's a good thing to aspire for more than anything else. It's definitely a good mentality to have. As we start to wind down the interview, Jay, I just have one last question I want to ask you. Obviously, you've been deeply entrenched in art for as long as you can remember, at the very least. How important is art, not just for you, but for the world as a whole?
I think it is the most important thing. It is everything that we see, every cereal box that we look at. It's every billboard. As you can tell, you can even find art when in a car, looking at a car. It's everything. It's if our life would definitely be black, gray, and white if we didn't have art. It is. everything that we want in the world, and yet it is everything that the world already is every time that we draw, every time that we make something. It's just our imagination plus our reality put into one. I think that folks that don't look at art still see art in everything that they do. Personally, for me, it has helped me to be able to find my own identity. It has been able to, to be able to find other people, my friendships. It is be able to find my community. So I think that it is important for everyone. It's what we need in the world, and that's why it's so important to preserve even the paintings that we see in old art galleries and everything like that. It's important to even keep your own first drawing just to see where you came from and like your journey and your story. But yeah, there's art in everything that we do, and I just think that it's the most important thing in the world.
Well, there you go. There you go. That is wonderfully worded, if I do say so myself.
Well, thank you.
That's all the questions I have for you, Jay. I've already showered you with a whole bunch of praise, but I will shower you with a little bit more because it's my podcast. I do whatever the fuck I want. Look, Jay, ever since I first became aware of InkBlot through Twitter, sadly, but ever since I first heard about InkBlot, I was always intrigued because I'm a person of the internet. I've seen different platforms come and go. I've seen different ways that people try to support art like come and go or whatnot, but I could tell just right off the bat that there was something with InkBlot, especially whenever I decided to divulge more into it, seeing the presence that you guys had and basically the no holds bar attitude of like, we are here for artists. We're here to listen to you guys. We are here for you. That is something that I appreciate and I loved and I admire from right off the bat, and something that I knew I wanted to like invest myself a little bit more into. Getting the chance to sit down and talk with you, get to hear your story, see how you've been able to develop all the different the weird roads that you went in order to get to this point, starting off in a completely different field that, if we're honest, has almost nothing to do with art, getting to a point to where like you're trying to create a platform to where artists can survive and thrive more than anything else. It gives me a lot more love and respect for you and your team. It gives me a lot of love and respect for InkBlot, and it's something that I feel confident in saying that I support InkBlot to the fullest and want to see it succeed more than anything else. I want to see you guys survive and thrive. I want to see people come to that in droves. I want to see people be able to grow through there, provide cool opportunities, really develop something incredible, because what you've got so far is outstanding. Like, knowing that this isn't something that just popped up like last week, knowing that there's a dedicated people of artists trying to help other artists succeed. That's something that I try to strive for. That's something that you guys are succeeding in doing right now, and hopefully exceeding 20, 50 fold within the next couple years or whatnot. The long and the short of it is, Jay, thank you for providing this space for artists, and thank you for developing this community. And I sincerely hope that however you guys are able to make it grow, it's incredible, it's wonderful, and people truly get the opportunity to be like what they could potentially be because of you guys. So thank you for what you do, and keep up the awesome work.
Thank you for saying that. You made my whole month.
I'm just being honest. I just try to promote honesty on top of art on this podcast,
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here for that. And I hope we're everything and more for everyone in our community, to be honest.
Absolutely. If nothing else, I'm a part of that community now, one way or another. So there you go. Now, if only we could find a way to promote podcasts on InkBlot. That's another thing we need to get started.
I'm absolutely here for it. I know we have a couple of voice actors on there, so it's we have our audio portion. So you definitely could do that. I think we mentioned in our quarterly roadmap that we're kind of make different profile styles. So basically, if you're a podcast, we have a specific style for that. If you're a voice actor, we have a specific style for that.
There you go.
The animator would have a different type of profile gallery look so that it doesn't have one size fits all. Yeah, so if you want to put like, your podcasts and episodes on there, we'd have something different for you as a podcast versus an artist who just needs the gallery part of it.
Fair enough.
Yeah, we're working on it. We're working on it.
Okay, I'll definitely keep my eyes on it. Now the question is, when is the InkBlot podcast going to be a thing? That's another.
No. I think we if you certainly need another host. I'll be more than happy to jump on here.
There you go. Well, if people want to find you and maybe either bring you on as a potential feature guest for their podcast, or at the very least find a way to show you the love and support, go ahead and plug yourself for the people at home.
Okay. InkBlot is on Twitter, InkBlot_art. You can always email me specifically at j@inkblot.art. And obviously we're on most social medias, Instagram. Unfortunately, we're underneath inkblot.app. But yeah, pretty much that's where you can get a hold of me, and I'm more than happy to schedule a meeting or just work up and schedule a podcast episode if that's what you're into. But yeah, I think I'm always open to, especially to boost someone else's podcast and stuff. I'd rather work with someone that's doing something that of a similar accomplishment rather than make my own, because if it's already established, and
Fair enough. Fair enough. And of course, if you guys are also, obviously curious, I would recommend going to the website inkblot.art to check out this incredible social media platform that we're talking about today.
How could I forget?
Become a part of that community today, people. It's going to be something incredible. I can already tell.
Yes.
Do you have any final words before we sign off?
Really just thank you so much for having me on here. You are not just another podcast to me. You have your own personality. I am definitely tuning in, whether it's an interview about me or not. I don't care. Okay. You have such personality. I'm already enthralled. So I think so. Thank you so much for having me on here, and obviously thank you so much for encouraging me and your thoughts on the platform. I know you mentioned your phone crashing on the app and stuff like that, but I just want you to know that someone that doesn't get deterred from that, and you kept trying and stuff, that is people that we desperately need right now. Because it's just like, give us more than one chance, because we're doing our best, and every week we get better. So, I know that if you're someone that's like that, then there's definitely other people that are doing the same thing. So I just thank you so much for your support, truly, and your kind words, because it really does keep us going, because as a small team, it does feel like it's a lot, but small things like that, we always post in our little Slack channel, like, hey, look at this nice thing that someone said, and we're always just so happy to get the feedback, whether it's positive or negative, as long as it's honest. That's all.
I mean, because at the end of the day, like, obviously, like, if this was like what the new Twitter was going to look like, if Elon Musk like just broke everything down and brought it back and it's what InkBlot was supposed to be, I'd have several questions, because of the fact that it's Twitter. It should be a like 200 or 500 people team like supporting that kind of stuff, and there's all that. You guys are a small team getting stuff growing, getting things going, and hopefully developing more to where you can get it to where you want it to be. If I was to be angry right off the bat, like, what good is that going to do? Like, like
Yeah, it was, I think people are so used to the tech giants and everything that, a startup is totally different pace. So, exactly. But I just thank you so much for supporting us, believing in us, being persistent and patient. That is definitely more than what we need, and exactly what we need.
Well, I'm glad to provide that at the end of the day more than anything else. But I will say those are wonderful words to end on. And for everyone else at home, I just have to say, hasta luego, mi amigos. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, I greatly do appreciate you sticking to this point. Jay was honestly a really interesting guest to have on this podcast. I knew ever since I saw InkBlot really popping up, especially with, Twitter being the giant burning dumpster file that it still is. It still is that. But ever since I've seen them really like popping off and like letting people know about the alternative and really like staying on top of it more than anything else and letting people know what they're about, I knew it was only a matter of time before I could have them on the podcast. So, Jay, if you're listening to this point, thank you so much for sticking around and thank you so much for your time. I said this multiple times during the interview, but joining a social media website is completely different from starting a social media website. So know that you're doing what you can to make the legwork possible to get something like this out there for artists. More than anything else, I can do nothing short but commend you. You and your team. Keep up the awesome work. That's something that amazes me more than anything else when it comes to InkBlot. It seems like a novel concept. A social media website dedicated to artists that truly listen to their artists first and foremost. You would think that more people would, kind of take that initiative to do that, considering the fact that, hey, if you want to have an audience, you got to listen to that audience. But, we live in weird times. We live in strange places. And, I'm just glad that there are people out there that are putting in the work to try to make something possible for other artists, which is why I encourage you guys to give InkBlot a chance if possible. And this is not some paid advertisement. InkBlot has, Jay did not give me a lump sum of cash for this or whatnot. This is completely me being honest, talking about this stuff. The mobile app is still buggy to me. I'm still getting adjusted to this stuff, but I still have faith in it. That is the honest truth I can give you guys. Anytime that an artist is willing to try to support an artist, that is something I cannot help but get behind in the first place. That's why I'm giving you guys that transparency whenever I said, hey, I gave a little money to help InkBlot. I'm telling you guys right now, I'm not advertised by InkBlot doing this thing or whatnot. I want to support them and I want to see them succeed. And I sincerely hope if you guys have the ability to, if you can at least get a profile with InkBlot. And if you can donate a little bit of money, that's awesome. If not, that's fine. Just start using the website. Start connecting with people. Start growing the site more than it already is. Because anything you can do to tinker with it and to help the site grow more than anything else is going to help in the long run. Especially at this point. Anything you guys can do to help them, go for it. Anything you guys can do to help other artists, go for it.